I am Frederick Lauren. I will be your host for this evening. Since we are all strangers here, perhaps we should get acquainted with a drink. Shall we? So, the current strategy is I have Gemini 2.5 here and very limited usage because it'll keep coughing out after a couple minutes. So the more I stall, the more chances I can ask it questions. But so I've been working with it today, trying to build a function I call execution step. Execution step is going to be crucial. It is going to be the key element. It's going to be the controller element to each play being ran and all the individual actions that have to take place during the play. Now, I don't know how efficient this is going to be until I actually run a play using my execution route step. I've got to make this the most efficient I can, but the current idea in my head is to do certain, to process it as best I can. Now, my thought is maybe even figuring out, if at all possible, to, hey, thanks for the follow, Flyzolog. That's what it says, Flyzolog. Anyway, if the idea is that if I can get, I'm thinking asynchronous calls, calling all 22 players in an asynchronous call. Now, that's tricky, right? I mean, it might be the most efficient way to do it, but I'm not even sure that the problem is executing the steps and moving things on. It's giving it to the UI and having the UI put these players down and act on them all. Code still comes in linearly. I mean, even if you say run this asynchronously, you can't call them all at the same time. Or, well, I don't want to say that. There may be a way to call them all at the same time. I don't know how that would be, but like maybe, I don't know how you would call things. You can call things asynchronously, but I don't know how you would call things at the same moment. Because you want the players to all act at the same time, right? But if you have 22 players and you give them all a command, but you have to tell them one at a time, right? Say asynchronously, so you can start telling the next guy before the first guy does his thing, but you still have to go through 22 players. You have to announce it to each one of them, and even if it's a split-second thing, is it going to be noticeable? Is it going to cause a problem? Do you maybe do it in the order of the speed of the players so that the slowest player goes last? Or maybe not even their individual speed. Maybe it's like their awareness value, how well they react to things, or their, you could use their agility or whatever to have a slightly minor effect that puts them at the bottom of the performance task. I don't know. You would think that there is a way to make the function work as closely to live as possible. Anyway, we're not there yet. Let's get this thing working. The idea is that the execution route step or the execute route step is going to be the controller to running all these functions that I have in this route actions. Okay, so every one of these route actions are things that can happen during a player's route. You have a go, a hitch, a button, a block, which is just a generic block, which is what every player does that isn't an offensive lineman. You could have pass block, run block. You could block to the right, you could block to the left, block to the center. I mean, really a regular block. I mean, probably shouldn't even be a generic block, to be honest. I don't know why I have that. Maybe I set up a thing that's just block. Block center is pretty much what generic block would be, right? But I think I created that because that was supposed to be a special teams block, but I didn't actually call it that. So I've had a cold recently, so bear with me if I sneeze a couple times. I always sneeze twice. Told you. But so exchange receiver. What the heck is exchange receiver? Okay, I think this thing made up some of my. I made up some of these. Exchange receiver. Exchange receiver. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that was intended to be. I gotta go look. Do I have a thing called exchange receiver? I gotta go look now. I think AI is getting creative. That's what I think's happening. Route action types. Let's see. I got exchange. Take hand. Oh no. See, it's called exchange. Okay. There's no exchange. Come on, AI. Stop trying to put your own words in. It probably saw WR and thought wide receiver. Which WR in this case is not wide receiver. It's wide out or wide receiver and running back. I have single letter abbreviations, and there's a reason for this to simplify my play setup. And this is wide receiver, running back, tight end. And these are all the types of plays. And apparently, so I do have block, which probably doesn't need to exist when I have pass block, run block, and then I have directional blocks, block center, block right, block left. Probably don't need a generic block. I could probably get rid of generic block and get rid of yeah, I don't know. Maybe generic block can be something that's not supposed to be in a specific direction. It's just like block the first person you can find kind of thing. It'll be a little bit less, a little bit more widely. Just get in his face. Don't let him get going. So maybe I will kind of keep that. But look, I also have this block. I have too many block types. Block for returner or punt or kickoff. See, there's block, and then I have. Okay, I must have got carried away with the blocking. Got block center, block right, block left, block, pass block, run block, and more block. Got blocks everywhere. I think I could get rid of one of these, at least one of these generic ones. I don't need that. WRT, run, pass, and special. Block is a block is a block is a block. What does this other one do? I didn't realize I had another one. Anybody can do this, and it's just a special block for returner or punt or kicker. Yeah, I think I can get rid of this. Actually, I should probably keep that one, and just could be anything. Run. Pass. Generic block. Just get in the way. And then we'll go up here and dump this other block. Because, yeah, we don't need that. Why I have two generic blocks, I don't know. Anyway, so, yeah, it's supposed to be exchange. I can get rid of whatever that other weird block is too, but what else we got? Bump. Block kick, which is a different thing. Bump, release, move, motion, and line up. Okay, so yeah, let's fix that. And then we will take myself over to the store formations. No, where was I? Simulator logic, route action types, block. Whatever the heck block generic is supposed to be, that's going away. And then we got scout, pass block, block right, block left, block center, cut, exchange receiver. That is such what? Exchange. See, it even says description, take handoff or pitch on run. Wow, how is it doing that? Description, cut block. Throw the ball, run with the ball, side block. Alright. Okay, so I think man coverage, zone coverage. It does make some assumptions. It's not using the same names. Block special. I'm just gonna call this block. Block. This will be block generic because this is just any kind of just get in the way. Block kick, which is a different thing. And bump, release, move, line up, motion. Okay, so there we go. Now AI has made, I kind of been given it direction and having it redo things multiple times. It's struggling with this because it's kind of complicated. So AI has done its best to try to come up with solutions. This is what it came up with so far. I'm not convinced. I think it's taking a bad approach. So this is why, this is Gemini 2.5. What Gemini 2.5 is doing, okay, so I made it out that my route actions route actions are defined with the very first thing on a route. This is every player gets a route. Every player, all 22 players have a route. Basically, it's what they're assigned to do on that play. So if it's zone coverage, they're going to move into a certain area and then they're going to cover. And that's all they do. They're going to cover their zone. And if it's an offensive player, receiver, for example, might run some various things. You might run to spot A, then to spot B, and then they might do a hook. They might do, they might stop and scout, which means if the ball doesn't come to them at that point, they're going to look for an open space to get the ball thrown to them. They're going to maybe shadow the QB. Either way, they're going to do what it takes. They're going to have their own actions. There's going to be a number of things that a player can do on a play. But I told it that the very first action is going to be a lineup action, and that just means this is where the player is going to sit on the play. So when the play starts, but you can see that it's doing this really complicated thing, and I don't know why it's making it so hard. So there are coordinates. We're going to have to parse coordinates. That's a thing. So that's fine. And then it says to get lineup coordinates, which means it's going to look for this ID. And I say, well, why don't you just get all the actions and just start calling the different values, right? So what we're going to have, what I'm probably thinking is, I don't know. I think it's overcomplicating this. That's what I think's happening. Because we have all of these functions. This is the whole, that's a big method. They're going to do a whole bunch of stuff. Current XY, get action, execute the action, blah, blah, blah. Default to current position, current action. Oh, they're looking at IDs, which I don't, why is it doing it all by IDs? Why doesn't it want to use the name of the action? It'd be so much easier just to read. Yeah, every one of them has a unique name, so it's not like, see, they're using, okay, that's why it's so long, because it's got one case for every one. And all each one is supposed to do is, this action defines a starting position which should have been handled when determining XY for step 1. My thought is, don't even do that. Just have your determination of where it's got to go on 28. I mean, call the action. Just go through the actions. Let the actions do their job. And then I feel like there's got to be a way we could almost make it more. It seems kind of weird to, I would just say, look at the action and start calling, like, what is all this? What is 27 supposed to be? It's the move action. But why aren't we calling the function move? See, it's not even using all the functions I created, all the function steps. I don't want all this code. Come on, AI, you're the one who built the stubs. Why why are you doing this? What the heck, man? All right. I'm gonna try and see something. I'm gonna try Copilot or not, Copilot's edits, and I'm gonna try and use Claude. Now I don't know how good Claude is gonna do here. I've never actually used. Well, I won't say I've never actually used. I rarely use Copilot edits because Copilot edits are kind of funky. But I want to see what it does because so far Gemini is kind of giving me weird answers, even though I told it all of the parameters of what I wanted to do. So I'm basically going to give the same parameters to Copilot Claude 3.7. Now I've liked Claude 3.7 a lot. I really like the way it works. It seems to be pretty smart in how it does stuff. And let's give Claude a chance. Let's see if it's better. If I could visually be going like, yeah, dude, you know your stuff. Let's see if Claude can do a better job. Now this is purely a code thing. Now I did hear that Gemini 2.5, as good as it is, has failed certain types, or not failed, done worse than some of the other programming engines. So maybe it's not always the best. I've heard great things about it, but maybe not always the best. And I don't even know how good it is at art, because I haven't tried an art thing with it. I will say this, ChatGPT's 4.5 art has been amazing. Amazing. Did I say amazing? Because it's amazing. Just saying. So here we go. I'm going to try to get me over to my run play code here. Once I close up enough stuff. We're going to close this, and then I'm going to open them up just because I'm going to actually do this. Then I'm going to close this one. And then, oh, whoops, I probably should get these other ones out. So we're going to open run play. Oh, I actually have stuff in here. Fine. What is the change? It's not, it didn't put that thing in, did it? Oh, it did. Yeah, I don't want that in here yet. I'm not going to hit save. I don't know if hitting save here apparently. So apparently it's making these changes in advance. I'll have to undo those or say no. Let's go here, run play. All right. Head to head, Copilot. Let's see what you come up with. I'm not impressed with what Claude did. So let's see if I can get this to just to be sure, let me ask a quick question here. Our workspace. Can you see unsaved values in a file? I want it to say no. I didn't ask you to fix anything. Shh. Stop. See. All right. Let's. All right. I'm just gonna. I think I'm gonna toss. I'm gonna toss this one. I'm not impressed. I'm gonna take out root client. We're gonna decline this. And then I'm going to go over to Copilot. I don't know what it's trying to do here. This is a big function, and I think it's doing it wrong. Yeah, let's just stop that. Stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it. Just stop. Just stop. Don't. And what did you do? I'm going to get rid of this whole function. Oh, how how did I end up with this? Let's close this. Don't save. All right. Now, what do we got in here? What is this? Pending changes from Copilot. No, just undo. Go away. Yes, undo that. Let's not fix anything right now. We will fix stuff later. Let's ignore the current errors. All right. Let's try that again. Everything's clean and happy camper. All right. Oh, I thought this was gone. What the heck? What, you're gone? executeRouteStep. It just doesn't do what I want it to do. It's too much. See how big that is? Oh yeah, that's terrible. All right, you can get rid of that. All right, so let's go back in here and we're gonna see how Claude does. All right, so the purpose of this function is it's going to be pretty complex, but I got to tell it all of the necessary parts to give it its best shot at success, right? So keep in mind for this task, you can look all of the PFFM, Go, MS files. Primarily proto files, playbook service, and simulator service will be needed. For now, we can ignore. Dude. Find latest player. No, all this. How did I end up with all this stuff? Didn't I tell it not to save any of this? I don't want any of that. What is this one? Sheesh. Whoa. How did I end up with 2 execute route steps? Jiminy criminy. Somehow I got like double stuff. Get lineup coordinates. Parse coordinates. Yeah, maybe that'll be usable. It's like it put stuff in twice. What the McNoodles, man? Generate play description. Alright. Go ahead, save to get that back on the same state, same page as everybody else. Alright. Services. For now, we can ignore the existing errors on the runplay.go. As much of the functionality there will be replaced by this new request. Now mind you, I did give a very detailed explanation of what I wanted to Gemini 2.5. It helped with some stuff, but ultimately it didn't. When I finally had things kind of hashed out, it still kind of dropped the ball. So I'm gonna try and see if Claude can do better. If not, I'll have to do it in smaller chunks. Like just give me this function or that, or small pieces. I need a new function called executeRouteStep. That will call the appropriate function in the route actions.go file. Based on the values in the route, route, first thing is the route actions. I'll go types here. Types? No, types here. Playbook, yeah. Yeah. And the values, based on the values in the route actions. I've noticed that it can take a while when you have a big thing. I'm going to have a pretty big thing here. So, and I do notice that the chat that you have from Edit with Copilot is not linked to this chat. What you put here, this doesn't know anything about it. This is like a whole nother window. It's kind of weird. Let's see, playbook service, simulator service will be needed. For now, we ignore the existing errors on runplay.go as much of the functionality that will be replaced by this new request. I need a new function called executeRouteStep that will call the appropriate function in the route actions.go file based on the values in the route actions of a given play. The function will be given what I'm wondering is if a play ID and will be expected to run all the route steps. You know, I was thinking I might try to call it sequentially, one with offense and one with defense, and then they could just run autonomously. I tried to run them asynchronously, see if I could get it to run them asynchronously. But I don't know if that would work. Would it be better just to run all 22 players at once? Have it just zip through and run all 22 of them? Call each function as fast as it can, running them asynchronously. Those could run asynchronously. But the thing is, I've got to run the entire play. So this function, when I run the play, will say, here's the play ID, go. And the execute route step is going to go, it's going to start calling the execute route step for every route step. We're not going to pass any of this. We're just storing it into a big array, and then we're going to pass this log of everything that happened up to the AI or UI, and the UI is going to take that log and do it to it. That's all it's going to do. It's just going to say, okay, well, I did this, and it did that, and it did this, and it did that, and all these actions happened. So it's going to be cool when it works, but it's going to be kind of complicated in making it work. Oh, come on. My stupid carpet protector, which has been really good. I tell you, it's a top quality carpet protector. It's awesome. Most of them go crap after a while, especially if they're on carpet. This one lasted almost 10 years, which is amazing. And it's only got a little dent in it that broke. I mean, it's a broken dent. And so my wheel on my chair keeps getting caught in it, and it pushes the chair up, and I can't push, or the back of the mat up, and my chair keeps getting caught. So I got to stop letting myself drift backwards. The other option is I could pull the mat back, but I don't know. For some reason, I don't like it. I don't know why. I don't know why the idea of moving it back bothers me so much. There's probably no good reason for it. I probably should stop. Maybe I'll get caught on it going backwards, and then this thing will never fall off this table again, or off the mat again. I don't know. Here I go, getting all distracted again by nonsense. Okay, so sorry about the distraction there. Let's get this going. Let's see if Claude can do this. All right, let's be as descriptive as possible. We'll be given a play ID, and we'll be expected to run all the route steps for that play. Each route step will represent a single grid space. Will represent a single action. The functions will be given a play ID and will be expected to run all the route steps for that play. Each route step will represent a single action. Pulled from a sorted on sequence value. List of route actions for each of the positions on that play. The first sequence value, 1, will always be lineup. So the first route step we'll call the lineup function, which will tell the player where they need to line up on the field. See, the thing that keeps going through my head is the complexity of figuring out speed. So every route step cannot represent a player moving on the field at the same speed. So we can't have everybody move one grid space all the time. So what I need to do is somehow calculate in, like, maybe some kind of iteration that says, like, if there's like to put a counter on a move. Like, if a player can move, like, I would have to put a range on it. Say a player's got a 62 speed, and there's another player on the speed with a 92 speed. What does that mean on the field, right? So do I divide? I'm thinking the best way to do that might be to divide, to have the move action, every step have an iteration. And so a player with a 99 will move in, like, a count of 2. And a person with a 62 won't move for a count of 40. Now we're talking in, lightning fast. We're not talking about seconds. We're talking about hundredths of a second. But it takes them that much longer, to move to the next space. I got to somehow figure out a good way, because you got to figure in the NFL, the slowest players are still pretty fast. Probably still pretty fast, right? I mean, they're a lineman who's out of shape maybe struggles to do a 40-yard dash in, I don't know, 6 seconds or something. Maybe he's doing a 7 or 8 second 40-yard dash. I don't know. I guess he could be really out of shape, but he basically jogs. But that's slower than me. Now, I'm not that slow. I mean, I'd imagine that I could probably outrun most 350-pound linemen, but could I outrun an NFL 350-pound lineman? Maybe. I don't know. It depends on what his condition is. Because for me, 100 yards, I could run a 100-yard dash. I've done it multiple times. In fact, multiple times sequentially, about 17 seconds. Sequentially meaning walk 100, run 100, walk 100, run 100. And I can do like multiple 17s. I've been having trouble getting. I want to get back down to around 14, 15, but I'm going to have to start doing more sprints. So that's a whole nother problem for another day. But in high school, my 100-yard dash was 13. So I was slow in high school. I was never a fast runner. And so if I could get back down to 14, that would be an outright miracle. I'd be pretty freaking fast for my age. Not for my fitness level. I think I'm in good enough shape to do it. I got to build up those fast twitch fibers. It takes a lot of work. I got to figure out how to do sprints somewhere closer. That's a 2-mile run to my local high school where I could go run on a track. So that makes it challenging. So yeah, there's that. And beyond that, I mean, I can run on a block, but I don't even know how many of the blocks around me are 100 yards. And running a crooked 100, or how do I even adjust? I don't know what 100 yards is. I have no way. I'd have to figure out a way to measure it. And that's besides the point. I'm getting off the track. But anyway, so I got to figure out speeds and the best way to implement a movement. So what I have to do is, say, for example, a player has a route action of move and it takes them to grid X. But every step is a route action. But I need them all to complete a step before we go on to the next action. No, that wouldn't even work, because that would mean if one guy gets there, he gets to continue on. Yeah. Well, maybe they just do it. It just runs. Maybe it just means they get to do it faster. They get... Yeah, see, I have to figure out the speed. I feel like I have it in my mind how it can be done. I feel like I have a solution. I just got to figure out how to implement. So if we have a route step that takes X iterations to get through, as soon as a player completes the iterations, it returns and gets the next action. Maybe it does a timer lag, like it keeps track of time. And if we want to have, like, say I want to say a 4-4-40, right? So that's like what? A 4-4-40 is like roughly 1.4 seconds every 10 yards. Is that right? 4-4? No, that'd be 1.1 seconds every 10 yards. That would be a 4-4-40. So if I wanted a base of the fastest speed off of a 4-4-40, I would have to come up with some kind of time lapse for, like, say, the fastest player to run in that function. And each function has its own delay before it returns. So it completes its action, returns back up, completes the route step, and then the route step, and then I can speed it up, slow it down, whatever I want. And then if I do a range, in the NFL, What is a solid estimated speed range for players in the NFL? Like slowest to fastest 40-yard dash. I'm going to showcase a wide range of speeds in 40 depending on their position and athleticism. Here's a solid estimate. Fastest players can round 4.2 to 4.3 seconds. The record for the fastest electronically timed 40-yard dash is 4.22 seconds. Wow. Average skill players might do 4.4 to 4.6. Linemen typically do 4.9 to 5.3, though some exceptional athletes can run faster. These times highlight the incredible... Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. So I can pick a range and generate what should be the average time frame of how long it takes a player to do X things. So if I were to say, I have to divide that up and roughly say something to the effect, because 40-yard dash, I don't think you ever slow down. I think in general, most players can run the same speed from start to finish on a 40-yard dash. At 100 yards, you might lose some gas, right? You're carrying a lot of gear, you're being chased. You may have run around a little bit, had to do some extra stuff. 100 yards, you lose some gas. But I think the point of the 40-yard dash is to figure out what your speed is for all the most practical plays. From the point, start to finish, what is your speed? That's why they do a 40-yard dash in the NFL. It's because it's rarely do you run more than 40 yards. Even, yeah, there's some sprinters, wide receivers that might have to go deep a few times a game when they're going more than 40 yards. But most of the time, players don't have to run more than 40 yards. Even a running back who's covering some ground, scrambling and running around a bit, unless he breaks a big one, he's typically running 5, 10, 15, 20 yards, So it's rare to have to run more, but you want to see what they can get for 40. And everybody loses speed, so some guys who are in better shape than others might be able to hold their speed a little longer. But generally, 40 is a good measurement. So if I were to use something like a 4.22 as the record high, personally, I would probably use like a 4 flat. And then everybody else is built off of a 4 flat. So the fastest guys might be getting, something where they're, a 97, 96, 95. I just want to make it so that it's unlikely anybody ever has 100. I don't want anybody to have 100 for speed. But ultimately, the idea is that we have a certain amount of time lapse. Or maybe we just give them a fixed time lapse based on their speed. Maybe that's just it. We just return, we have them move their step, and we say how much time went by for that step. And then we can go up to the UI and say, this guy needs to take this long to go this far. It can add it all up. If the whole entire action is for him to do a move and he goes 4 squares, which is going to be 10 yards, he goes 10 yards, it took him, based on that logic, if he's a 4.2 runner, it took him 2.1 seconds to go 10 yards. While as somebody who's slower and he's going, average skill position guy, he does a 4.6, it takes him 2.3 seconds to cover that same 10 yards. Not a lot, but it's enough to push one guy farther back at that 10-yard mark. And even a DB who's got to run kind of backwards, they should measure a DB's backwards running skill. They probably do. I don't think it's kept, but you have to be able to run fast backwards, right? But you're way slower than most guys running forwards. So you got to know when to turn around or, you're going to get left in the dust. My cold is kicking. I'm going to fill my water. I'll be right back. So we have really good water where I live. It's good in every sink. Just bragging. So I could actually get water out of our bathroom sink and go, water. And obviously the pipes in our house are obviously pretty good too, but they're no better than anyone else's, I think. But ultimately, we just have pretty good water up here. We have a friend of my friend of my daughter's moved to California, and she came back for a visit, and she was saying how she misses the water up here. She goes, "You can't even drink the water down there. You can only drink bottled water. It's so terrible." It's like, that's a bummer. And I've been places like that. It's like, ew, this water tastes funny, man. Okay, so I'm getting distracted by the minutia again, what a play does. But as I solve it in my mind, I know that it'll work to do what I'm doing. So let's keep moving. Really what it comes down to is trying to resolve what's going to go in the log for that action. And when it returns, we'll always line up. The first step will call the lineup function, which tell the players where they need to line up on the field. Each function will log its results in the play progress log. How long do you think a typical block needs to be held to be successful? Let's see what it says. About how long do you think a block would need to be held by a About how long do you think a block would need to be held by a lineman? No, by a non-lineman, i.e. a wide receiver or running back or even a QB to be considered? How long do you think at least minimally successful would simply getting in the way be enough, or is at least 1 or 2 seconds or a knockdown play design and context. Generally, holding a block for 1 or 2 seconds that makes minimally successful in many situations, as it can create enough time for the ball carrier to make their move. Simply getting in the way of a defender can sometimes be enough, especially if it slows them down or redirects their path. For example, a quick passing play or screen disrupting the defender's momentum, even briefly, can make all the difference. Plays like deep passes or outside runs, a solid block lasting at least 2 seconds or a knockdown might be more impactful to fully execute the play. Blocking as a non-alignment often comes down to effort, positioning, and situational awareness. Does this align with what you're thinking, or is He basically said what I said. So, what is block success? I would say block success would be some effect that results in the defender not being able to go straight. You know, a block can be, you know, for the amount of time that goes by, right? So every iteration has to happen. So maybe the idea is that the block is held for X time. Maybe that's it. You measure it. You do a test, and every successful test results in a fraction of time. Maybe the first test is you succeed, and he's hindered. He's hindered at least a little bit, and you can call it a hinder or a one or some level of success. Then if it goes through and he succeeds again, then maybe he gets a 2 or something. You have multiple success checks, and it has more of an effect. But each moment of the block actually gets harder and harder, because it does. You can't keep a block up forever. These guys get away. I mean, and a good DB is going to be really hard to block to begin with sometimes. I've seen receivers block. They're not good at it. It's not their forte. But they may have a really good chance of at least a hinder if they put in an effort. You know, they're not just going to go, ooh, and the guy just runs through their hand. I mean, they can. Some players might not put in the effort. I've seen it, trust me, where the blocks are like, what was that guy doing? Did he just like walk? Did he get out of his way? I don't know what he was doing. Okay, so that kind of gives me. Again, I keep thinking about the different abilities, and I'm getting caught up because I'm really trying. Right now, I'm at that point where I'm designing and building how these plays are going to play out, and I need to know what information. I think one of the actions I needed to define was success amount of the action. Where is that? Did I get rid of it? What did I do with it? Dimensional array. Zone, base play for type, goal out which. Oh yeah. No, this isn't where I would keep it. This is I have to go to the simulator, and the simulator has play progress log. I got ID, player ID. I have. Some actions have tests to determine success, which will affect how the play progresses. Route action result, which is a thing, but every level. I don't need this. I'm getting rid of that. I don't need that. Well, do I? Do I? Trying to decide. Apparently, my cold is going all in. It hadn't been. I hadn't been getting. It hadn't been getting sinally. It hadn't been getting in my head, but apparently now it is. It's moved on to the runny nose state of things, I guess, as effective immediately. All right, so why do they line up on the field? Each function will log its result in the play progress log. What I'm thinking, I'm trying to figure out how the execution steps are going to work, because I have to log the action so that it can be visually rendered in the UI. And say, for example, a movement. Do I have the individual functions log themselves until they succeed and then they return up? But then it's like, how is that an execution step? Is the execution step just the individual actions? Hey, you need to get to this state. And the individual play will try to execute that state. But it's gonna have to see if two players end up in the same grid space. So how do we test for that? That's what I'm worried about. If the defender comes into the grid space, something happens, right? They bump each other, something happens. And I got to figure out how. Maybe I'll let Claude kind of let me know how it wants to handle that. You know, I'll just say, if a defender moves into a space where I think each step has to be a grid step, though it could have varying amounts of speed to get there. Right. So each player, they all do their thing, and it says, okay, it took this long to execute that step. And then if it took this long to execute that step, and then it returns it up to the execute step. This is a tough one. I gotta get this right. And really, I don't have to get it right completely. I just need to get it mostly right so that I'm not rewriting this a bunch of times. All right, will always be lineup. So the first one, each function will log as a result in the progress log. Oh. What a yawn. My brain is really going here, man. I am like, I'm working OT in my head here. Overload, putting the rest of my body to sleep. I want to get this logic in. I'm trying to determine really what it is. I'm going over in my head here is interactions. My brain is trying to figure out, okay, well, I have everybody do their thing, and then they have to return a result to the. They have to return a result every time they exit a grid space, right? Something has to happen at a grid space, but then as soon as it's done with that action, it's got a grid. Once it's done, it's completed its action, we have to send it back to the execute route step. And then the route will say, okay, well, we got these guys in there, we got this actions going on, and then it might, trigger something. I may have to, like, say if a player's got set to block and there's nobody in that spot, maybe they're just waiting for a blocker. They're looking for the first person they can reach. Maybe they move towards a defender, or a defender is trying to, maybe they want to do a bump and run, so they run towards the offense and then they turn around. But I'm trying to figure out what happened. I got to figure out how to calculate their collision. So my guess is every player is allowed to move until they're not in the same grid space with someone. So there's no problem. But I think every time they switch grid spaces, so yeah, I think I just basically have to calculate each grid as its own action, and then it could log that action, and then we have to have different types of things happen when the next route step happens. What do? Well, two guys come up on each other, and one guy's job is to cover man to man, so he's going to immediately turn around and try to follow him. Maybe the other guy's job is just to keep running, or maybe he does a cut, and then if he does a cut and there's a guy in his... So that's what I need to do. I need to tell the function, each of my functions is going to have to be updated to allow us to know if a player has entered their grid space. That's the thing. So I got all these route actions. None of them have anything in them. They're going to have to accept. Okay, so... and we'll be expected to run route positions. This first phase will tell you it's 1. We'll log this result in the play progress log. One action occurs for grid space. So there may be a time associated with that action to account for movement, for speed, or even so what if a quarterback never leaves his spot? What if he's just looking for someone to throw to? I think you can count, like, he checks for where all the positions are of his players, and he has to be certain effects, like his skills might do something like check to see if a defender is in a grid space near him, and he needs to know or be made aware of all of the, well, let's just say he will be provided with all that information, whether or not he's able to do anything with it. Like, he'll know if somebody's breaking, if he's got a good rush awareness. Yeah. Certain types of actions might get more information. Like, if his job is pass, do I have scramble? A scramble's not something you would typically... Scramble's a non-assigned action, but it could be an action that he does on his own. So, in other words, I have to be able to give a scramble action, which is like a self-assigned route action. So he's got to make that decision, though. He's got to be able to see where players are, and that's only if he's got the pass action, and maybe he makes that decision to do a scramble action. And I'll have to have scrambling is not the same as not passing, though. So maybe I have an effect that says he knows where a certain player is, he runs X or he runs Y, and that, he tries to do a certain thing. and a certain amount of seconds pass. So maybe each player just gets his own little event world. They do what they do, and if there's a defender involved, then the defender gets to affect that player. But everybody's kind of like doing their own little thing. So if a player's job is pass, his whole little story is where he sees players and whether he finds a pass, and that whole action will come back as a log, and it says it took it 2.5 seconds to do this. But the problem is it needs to be keep getting fed updates. So I think a quarterback pass action assumes everybody's in a certain grid position. I think that's what it is. He just does a pass action and that's it. When you do a pass action, he looks to throw. But if he might check based on, where he expects players to be. And yeah, he'd have to be able to read the plays. I mean, the quarterback's pass action would have to be pretty smart. It would have to know where the receivers are supposed to be and where the running backs and everybody's going to be, which is fine. But like maybe a good quarterback can look at all the play positions, but maybe a weaker one might only look at 2 or 3 of them. Because it can happen fast, right? But I got to be able to tell where the end of the route is. So you would look at probably the last grid position in a route run. That's probably the best way. Last grid position, and then he can see if anybody's made it to their grid position. Now you can maybe, if somebody's within 1 or 2 grid spaces, he can lead them or throw it to them there if he's got that kind of ability, which will make it a better chance at a catch. If you throw it to somebody when they're already in the space, the guy has to do something different. He's going to have to fall or whatever, unless he's expecting a certain action type, like maybe he's supposed to run a hitch or a button. So basically you're just trying to time it for him to be there and do his thing. But I think we're good. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have the pass execute just a quick check at every moment. And for that time, each certain amount of time has to pass while every player is trying to get to their place. He has to also look. The first thing he needs to do is look to see if he's going to get sacked. Maybe he scrambles while he does his pass check. That's it. Okay, I think I got it. I think I got how I'm going to run a pass and a block and the routes. Yep. I'm finding it's there. It's there. We'll always line up first. Space grid. That action account for the player's speed. Grid space. Though there may be sometimes associated with that action account for player speed. Once all players have all player route steps have occurred. I think every action has to state whether or not their action is complete. Okay. It checks the return result of each action. If the action is not complete, i.e. player has not fully moved to the designated coordinates, it will call the same route action function. Each route action function will take a variety of we'll take a variety of a set of parameters needed to complete the action. If two players enter the same grid space, each player's each player will be passed information, and they will be able to act according to that information. This might trigger a variety of non-joined actions, such as a variety of route actions, such as bump, pitch, or stutter. You know what? What I'm doing is I'm building all this stuff in my head and I'm writing it down, but ultimately I think I just need it to do one thing. I'm giving it too much information and and it's gonna trip. What I think I need to do, I'm gonna copy this whole thing and I'm gonna try to just make this simple. Because I think what I'm doing is I'm making it overly complex for a single call to the AI. I need to make it less complex. I will need to update it to do certain things to make it call these functions correctly, but I think we're gonna simplify this. Will always be lineup, so the first call always called lineup. Each function will log its result. To play progress log, one action occurs per grid space, or one progress log. One route action may actually take up more than one route step. Such as a move that goes several grid spaces. Each function will return with a complete actually, you know what? I'm going to say a success or failure with a success or failure. Result. The failure the same route action will be called again until that player returns a success. Once a player has successfully completed an action, the next route action for that player will be called. For now, let's not worry about the content of each individual route action function and focus on the signatures and the execute route step. All right, let's see what I get. I gave it a lot. It's a whole bunch, and it's gonna go. Let's see if I can get through this. I don't know. I don't have any idea how this is gonna work. It's a lot to digest. Honestly, one thing at a time. And I'm hoping that it can create this function that will take the play and then read the routes and just start calling all the routes for all the players. That's really all I needed to do. But let's see what it does. Let's see how it comes up with something. Otherwise, I may have to do something in a smaller piece. The problem is if you tell it in a small piece, I need this piece in the function, it's going to go, oh, but you need all this stuff. And it'll still try to give you crap. So you're better off giving it all the details so that it at least knows what kind of crap you're trying to build here. But you can see this is pretty significant. This is telling you a little bit how it's going to come at it. It's doing the thinking version, so it's actually trying to really work this out in its head. Hopefully it's not overthinking it, which I do. That's how we got to this point. It's 8:30. It's taken me an hour to even come up with the request for this guy. All right, well, let's see. Yeah, over an hour. Just to come up with the request. And it is cranking. This is a serious, serious test. So let's see what it comes up with. It's still going. Now this is a code generating action, so I don't know how good Copilot is, but you can see it's doing a bunch. It's changing all my it's doing a bunch to change my signatures, which is fine. I want my signatures updated. That's good. Because I need to give it things like, I don't know what the simulation state is, the target point, and the play progress log. But it's giving me all this. Let's see what all it does. This is a whole bunch of stuff. So routeactions.go and RouteStep.go. Oh, so it took a different approach by creating a different function for my route step, which is probably good because you can see it's a complicated function, right? Simulation state holds the current state of the simulation. Not sure I like that. Players, ball, game clock. See, it's trying to track things that yeah. Huh. I don't know. All right, let's see what else we got. Player represents a player in the simulation. Add action attributes. Ball represents the football in the simulation. Keeping track of the football. Sure. This is interesting. Ball represents, play represents a football play. Okay. Yeah, I guess it is kind of looking at that. Represents a specific action a play should take. ID, play position, type, sequence, target point. I don't like that it's using new nomenclature though. Play progress log. Okay, so no, not quite. See, it already stumbled. Okay, so I need you to use the types and the simulator types and the playbook types find, or the related photo files if needed. Please do not change names of variables if an action already exists. Plays are defined in the playbook service types.go. Play progress log, route actions, and play. Play progress log. What else do we have in the types? I'm confused at the moment. Simulator, we've had play progress log. And last play game state refers to the last play ran already exists. Or while running a play, it is the current play. Why do I have? I thought I took those out. Just go away. Let's see. Already exists. What else did it do? Did a lot of stuff. Please make sure as much as possible to consider the already existing code structures and implement accordingly. That's kind of weird. I didn't know that how to actually represent the coordinate in the field. Hmm. Well, Claude is giving me my signature. I do know that it needs to implement the play progress log because I don't want to have to enter more. But I may need to add some things to the play progress log, but none of this stuff is actually doing anything right now. So this is just log action progress. So I'm going to, I think, accept for now target point. What is a target point? Is target point supposed to be my coordinates? Target point. Also, note, not all actions will move on the grid. Some just execute an action and return success or failure. Huh. I got all kinds of things in my head. But I probably don't need to worry about that nitpick. I probably could just leave it go because I'm not too worried about things like target point. But problem is, what is point? Did it create this thing called point or target point on here? Yeah, see, I don't like any of this. It did a lot of stuff I don't like on this one, so we're going to reject this one. We're going to undo that one. That one doesn't exist. And this one we can maybe keep. We'll go ahead and keep that one. I don't mind that it put some signature stuff in there. Let's go ahead and why not? Was it too much work? Did you reach your brain hurt? What does mean? Sorry, no response. Returned. Oh, do I have to say done first? Oh, wow. Okay. No history. Can I, huh. Well, that was lame. Copilot dumped my history. All right, this is not particularly great. Colds. Colds suck. They suck. Ah. All right, let's go. Fifine, go simulator. Why does it? And playbook. Why did it only add some? I told it to add files, and it added runplay.go and types.go is all it added. Oh man, that's terrible. I want the entire. Can we add a whole folder? Oh, it only adds individual files. Oh, that sucks. All right, let's do folder. There we go. See that this is not good. I can't quite figure it out. So I think what I'm gonna have to do. All right, let's simplify. I'm gonna restart this. I just want the basic action here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to simulator here. I'm gonna go to run play. It's probably going to be pretty complex, so let's go ahead and create a new, we'll call it route step or something, run execute route step. We'll call it what my function is, new file. It's going to be kind of a big thing, so we'll call it execute route step. Execute route step.go. Alright, we're going to go at workspace. I need a basic controller that will receive a play object. Sure, play object based on the play object defined in the playbook proto and the types.go in the playbook service. Function will be called execute RouteStep. It will fetch the list of route assignments given to route assignments given to the players involved in the play. As defined in the playbook service types.go. It will then call order of sequence value the route actions in each route actions one at a time in order of sequency. Sequence value the route actions one at a time for each player in the play. This is going to have to do offense and defense at the same time. I think it has to do offense and defense at the same time. But I don't know the best order to do that because stuff's going to happen. But it needs to be able to control and let the individual actions know when a player's hit their grid. And if I'm running them separate or outside, they won't know when a player's in their grid. So I have to actually say, we'll receive a play object for each of the offense and defense. Period. The function will be called executeRouteStep. Period. It will fetch the list of route assignments given to the players involved in the play. It will then call, in order of sequence value, the route actions one at a time for each player in the play. It may do this asynchronously. Asynchronously. Assuming I spelled that right. To speed it up. To speed up the process. There is a corresponding function in the route actions.go for each route action in the player's lists, in the player's route assignment. If the route action function returns false, the same route action will be called again. Until all route actions have if the route action function returns false, the same route action will be called again. If a player has no further route actions and the play has ended, Well, like a route doesn't, right? You can finish a route actions and then you still have stuff to do. Like you could get the ball thrown to you and now suddenly you're the ball carrier. Um, player will just sit there unless they are given a runtime action, i.e. the ball is thrown to them. Or they need to respond to a runner. They need to chase down a runner or a fumble. Runtime actions will be defined here. All right, so right now I just need them to execute their place. And really all I need is this function. So we're going to see now, I'm not using the editor, I'm just doing chat. So it's going to give me the code. And then I can kind of go, okay, this code is kind of, it's not that hard to copy and paste. And plus I can see line by line what it's actually trying to accomplish. See, new route step controller. Creates a new route step controller. Execute route step. Executes the current route step for all players in both offensive and defensive play. All right. All right, so let's see what it does. Create error channel to collect errors from Go routines. Process each play, offense and defense. Get route assignments for all players in this play. Route assignments. Find the play. Oh, this is interesting. It's trying to do it. It does it in a execute route action. Oh, it's actually separating them? All right, what's it doing? Action map. Interesting. This might be good. I kind of like that it's doing this a little bit more contained and cleaner. I didn't know you could call a method this way though. Player point, play progress log, action. Look up the action function. Action function exists, blah. Execute the action function. Return action func. Wow, I didn't know you could do that in Go. That's actually kind of a... So it's creating a pointer of such to the function that you can actually just call the function. See, it's cool, but I don't think it's going to work if I have different parameters for different actions. It only works because all of my functions have the same parameters right now. Geez, I think that's cool, but I'm either going to have to provide, because certain things like passing could have a lot of stuff that goes on in it. I mean, I guess it, see, the passing is going to have to be tricky, right? A quarterback needs to know a lot of stuff. And you simply can't just go, well, okay, where's everybody at on the field? The quarterback needs to figure out a way to track that, which means It's kind of a I'm going to have to provide some information to this quarterback so he can kind of look, well, where's everybody on the field? Pass is going to be a complicated one. It's also the most integral to the game, right? It's the most complicated. He's got to go back. He's got to wait for players to get to their positions. He's got to do a lot of stuff. This is going to be a very complex function. But he also needs stuff like, where are the players sitting? Where are the defenders? Are they getting blocked? Maybe they are close, but they're being held at the moment. They're being blocked. It's when a defender's running loose that you got to go, oops, time to scramble, right? Or maybe he doesn't have the rush awareness. He doesn't know. Like a good quarterback might be able to sense when a guy's behind him, so you could actually say something like, if the grid spaces are, in front of him, he responds good. But if he's got bad rush awareness, he may not know that what's going on with the defenders behind him. Guys with better rush awareness might have a chance to figure out what's going on with them, that kind of thing. So you can be adjusting to what's going on outside of your view range. Your rush awareness will say, oh, this, your peripheral vision caught it. Most quarterbacks can't see behind them. Some of them just looks like they can see behind them. Or maybe they were aware of a guy who went out of their vision and they only waited a second and immediately started running. But they have an awareness. They know the guy's back there. It's rarely that a quarterback just magically starts to run and happens to dodge the guy. And it happens a lot. And you're like, the guy's got eyes in the back of his head. No, he's just aware of his surroundings, and he knows where guys are disappearing to, and he's like, okay, well, I can't. He was running around. I don't know if he got away, but I'm not staying here. And that's why they take off. It's like they know that the guy's coming, and based on their brain being good at this thing, they start moving out of the way, and the guy thinks he's coming up blind on him. It's really more of the guy just knew he was getting back there and he took off smartly. So it did put a lot of plays into this. I don't know why it felt like it needed to do more, to create more stuff, and why it has changed my name. New route action. Execute route step there. Has execute route step there. And then down here, execute route action. Oh, okay. But then route action, get the action type ID, parse coordinates if provided, invalid action coordinates, target point. Execute the appropriate route action function based on the action type. So it's going to be action type player, target point, success. If the action was unsuccessful, it will need to be retried in the next step. Return now. Okay, so it's going to call the execute action by type ID? Yes. Okay, so it executes action by type ID. Oh. Yeah, but... So it's doing it by type ID. I guess that works. I mean, we're using text anyway. See, I like numbers. I think numbers are good ways to go. It's like blah, blah, blah is 1, is 2, is 3. But if you're going to use text, why not just use the name? Honestly, I probably don't even know why I don't just call them by their name. Every route action should just be called, not be given a name, a number like this. I should just call them what they are. I don't know. A hitch, a go, a button, a scout. I can call them a rack, hitch, go, scout, whatever. Because they're all going to be unique anyway. What do you need a number for? The number is just something silly. There's no reason for it. We're not doing it's meant to be a smaller space thing. Less text, easier to read. But when you start putting strings into your IDs, then you might as well just use whatever you want. And I might change that, but for now, let's leave it. Look up the action function. Okay, and then it creates runtime action type represents different types of runtime actions. Oh, it went and created my runtime actions. It went and just said, "Oh, by the way, we're going to go ahead and create your runtime functions too." Let's see what it did: interception, tackle, recover, fumble, catch ball, throw ball. It doesn't say block or anything like that, which should be a runtime action, right? A good player will have a runtime action. Now, under what circumstance do we call the runtime actions? That's what I've got to calculate. It's like, or not circumstance. Circumstance is easy, but I mean, how? So we throw the ball. A player has a catch attempt. So we say, all right, catch ball. And then if a player is being assigned to catch ball, other players have to pursue ball. See, they're not doing any of that stuff. So like handle fumble. Well, handle fumble is what? Everybody in the game, all players say, go for the ball. So what does that mean? They move to a different grid space. So if I have them all say handle fumble, fumble would have to be like, I'd have to say where the ball is, and then players will all have to move towards the ball. And if you're already you're within a grid space of the ball, you could either dive for it, or if you're in the grid space, you can drop on the ball, but you can attempt to recover it. And then if two guys or more go for the ball at the same time, they all have a chance to try to lock the ball up. And that's where you kind of, certain types of actions, like a dive has less chance than a drop. If you drop on the ball, you got a better chance of recovering it. If you dive at the ball, you got less chance of recovering it. And basically, there's a fight for it. Like maybe there's a % chance. Everybody goes for it, and whoever gets the nod gets the ball. So yeah. And if they fail, then if all of them fail for some reason, then someone else could come in there and make an attempt at it. But I'd say like you still have the better chance. Like if a guy's got a 40% chance, his chance goes up to 60 the second time, if he's still in the grid space with the ball. It didn't get spit out into the next, like a different grid space. I already have a run play. What are you doing? Why aren't you using the stuff I already had? Alright, I'm going to get rid of this. Because I don't think I can calculate yards here. I mean, I'm going to have to calculate yards. I mean, there may be a calculate yards. I'm gonna put a description here. Calculate yards based on final grid position of ball So I'm trying to figure out what I'm stalling on is, what am I calculating the grid position on? I have logic in that determines where the ball is going to be, and that considers like tackling skills of the various players. So I have a grid based on 2.5 yard squares, which is half of a 5 yard section. But that doesn't mean everything happens in 2.5 yard increments. You could have any number of increments. It could be inches. And the way that happens is there's certain skills on certain players that plus or minus off of wherever the ball is at the time that the play ends. And all right. And calculate yards. This doesn't matter. What we're going to need is ball grid location, which is going to be a string. And then we're also going to need to know the defensive stuff value int. Is it int or double? It might be a double. I think it's a double. Is it double or and we have offensive. It's not a stuff value for the offense though. It's offensive. I forgot what it's called on offense, but they both have one. Offensive. Maybe push value. I don't know. We'll call it push value for now. Push value. Double. It's not a double? What's it called then? A decimal? Is it a decimal? What is what's it called in no? It's not a decimal? what's the double equivalent in money? I don't know. What's it called? I don't know what the in Go, what is the decimal equivalent? Double. Oh, a float. Represent using the float 64 type. This type uses 64 story. Alright, it's float 64. Huh, okay. Weird. Float. I've used floating points before, but it's not usually what they're called. I thought that's what a double was. Gosh, not. Ball grid location and defensive stuff values. Okay, so this is so this is really just going to be wherever the ball is, and actually it's the X grid position, right? No, Y grid position. It's the ball Y grid position. And then we take care of it with our considering the rest. Okay, so there won't be any random ints here. What this is basically going to do, it's going to take, you know, we're adding plus and minus yards, really is all we're doing, and we're going to return the amount of yards. So it's like, I have a pass play too here. I don't need a pass play. Calculate pass yards, is that what that is? Looks really complicated. Run play. No, I don't even need that. That whole thing can go away. Getting rid of that. We're getting rid of all this junk. Calculate. And we're going to get over, I don't know what the random float's going to be. We'll deal with that later. Don't need any of that. Get rid of all that junk. Calculate run yards, score after play. Yeah, we're going to, I don't know, maybe I'll have that in there. Run yards don't really matter. It's just calculate yards. It's calculate yards on play. And then I don't need the calculate pass yards because it's the same thing. We're not doing weird random. I'm not doing the random crap. That's not going to happen. I'm getting rid of all that nonsense. All right, so calculate yards based on final grid position of ball. Minus defensive stuff value plus offensive push value of primary players. That's the players who were involved in the play, right? Okay, so we just got to have this, and it's really pretty simple. We're gonna go, you know, well, it's if how many? Let's see, what is it? The we have a grid position. It's gonna be X. Well, the line of scrimmage is 0. Really. The line of scrimmage is 0, so the yards is going to be so it's going to be Y. Basically, it's Y times 2.5, which I should probably put in as a system thing, because I may change this. I may change this if I don't like it, but it's Y times 2.5. It's like yards on play equals ball Y grid position times 2.5 minus defensive stuff value plus offensive push value. That's easy. Done. Oh, wait a minute. What's the negative? All right, so we could be negative and then still go backwards. Okay, we're fine. Because if the Y grid position is negative, then that means we moved, something happened, and we ended up behind the line of scrimmage. And then we return the yards on play. And then we will also have it returns int 32. Okay. It's not going to be an int, though, because we could have fractional. Which is going to be weird if as I start allowing fractionals. But that's where the line of scrimmage sits. So what can I do? We're going to do float 64. What I might do is do it like a random adjustment. That can range anywhere from, I mean, refs are not perfect, right? So it could range anywhere up to 2 yards. 2 yards would be big, but I want to have it like have the ref adjustment, and it can range anywhere from plus minus 2 yards. But it's most likely going to be something high chance. It's like I might have a ref ball placement table, and the ref will have like maybe 50% puts it in the right spot, and then you got a 25% chance he's off by a little bit, and another 10% chance he's off by a little bit more. But there's a 3 to 5% chance maybe that he's off by a lot. He's off by the full 2 yards. He just he's blind. And this is one of those times where you'd be like, ref, what are you talking about? How did we end up so short? Maybe I don't make it that severe. I mean, I've known refs to get it really wrong. But maybe only in certain circumstances. Like if the ball went out of bounds. It's like players running down the sidelines and it's out of bounds. Then he might get it that far off. But maybe normally it's only a yard. It varies by a yard, even a half a yard, who knows. But something that it adjusts it just slightly, either forward or back. And that information will be logged on the oh yeah. Because I'll log where he placed it, and then if the coach wants to challenge, the coach can challenge, and then there will be a chance that it overturns. Based on how far off it is. If it's a lot off, he's got less chance of it overturning. Like he could challenge it for, if maybe he only needed 6 inches, but the ref messed up and gave him 2 inches, and he wants to challenge it, and it can check and go, well, it was actually 4 inches, and maybe he'll get it. But when it's that close, there may be some calculations in there that says, well, they can't really tell. It doesn't always go your favor, right? Even if you are right. But the more off they are, the bigger the difference. And you may not get it all back, right? You might say, maybe he's off by 2 yards, and you challenge it, you might get back 1.5 yards, because it might not give you all of it back. Maybe they think it's a little bit different, but you may only get some of it back. Maybe it's all you needed. You only needed an extra half a yard or whatever. So the coach will have to make that decision. That'll be a challenge. There may be maybe I'll have on the special teams thing, I'll have a coach challenge sensitivity. The coach, you can adjust how sensitive you want him to be for challenges. And some of those things will be for like fumble recoveries, because you can't always tell. So maybe there will be like a check who got the ball back, or maybe was it a fumble? Maybe there's a chance it wasn't a fumble. It says there was a fumble, the ball dropped, but maybe you can have a test, and maybe there's a small chance that it wasn't actually a fumble. Maybe every single fumble's got that chance, right? Maybe that's true. You know what? Fumbles might have a probability or a replay value or something. A replay value might say you've got a 10% chance. You've got a 30% chance. You've got a 90% chance. of success. And depending on your coach's sensitivity would be whether or not you challenge. If you don't challenge at, maybe your sensitivity is like, yeah, I've got a 20% chance. You've set it at 30%. He doesn't challenge it, and it's just what it is. But, if the lower the sensitivity is, there's a very low chance that you're going to actually get this one to turn over, right? So if you've got a super high sensitivity and it says there's a 99% chance this is a fumble, you might go for the test. But otherwise, you don't want to take any chances. Otherwise, if you have a really low sensitivity, you might set it at, every time there's a doubt. If there's any doubt, go for it. I don't care. If there's a 3% chance that he didn't fumble, let's do it. Of course, there's the risk, right? You lose your challenges because you only get 2. Dang McSchnabbits. All right, guys. I'm signing off. Till next time.